Help find the murderer of Bernell Trammel. Bernell Trammel was a Milwaukee resident who was shot in broad daylight, probably because he's been campaigning for several weeks with a sign saying, "Vote for Donald Trump." He's been standing on street corners and in front of his business. You can see his signs here with Bible verses and the advice to vote for Trump. Concerned River West shooting was politically motivated. Community calls for federal investigation. Members of the community came together in prayer Tuesday after a homicide in River West, calling on federal investigators to look into the shooting death of Bernell Trammel. Those who knew him believe he may have been killed because of his support for President Donald Trump. And isn't this the state of the 2020 election, where the artificial, contrived, polarizing hatred of the news media, Hollywood left, and online social media has driven the presidential election to the point where Democrats feel the need to murder Trump supporters? Why would you murder someone for asking your support in a presidential election? This is probably why our founding fathers devised the secret ballot, because Democrats respond with violence and mayhem when they find out someone supports President Donald Trump. You may recall during the 2016 campaign, Democrats stoked fears that Trump supporters were violent, vicious people that would beat anyone who didn't vote for Donald Trump. But in reality, it appears that your life is in danger for supporting Donald Trump. Trammel was known in River West as a peaceful man who would demonstrate often in favor of Black Lives Matter and President Trump. So here you see the hatred of the radical Democrat left, where you can't support both. You can't say Black Lives Matter and vote for President Trump, because someone will shoot you in broad daylight and kill you. Mr. Trammel and his right to free speech, which was taken away from him, received national attention on the Laura Ingraham show on Fox News. She asked, "Do you know his name?" because the national news media has not covered his story. CNN, MSNBC, CBS News, ABC News, NBC News, the Washington Post, the New York Times, they didn't consider this anything but a local story. It's a local story because it shows someone being murdered for supporting President Trump. And just now, I searched in vain for various websites in Milwaukee for this story. This is the fourth website I went to, Fox 6 Now. Do you know the other news outlets in Milwaukee don't even cover this as news? So even at a local level, this is not a news story, because the death of Trump supporters doesn't matter. Here is the image of the suspect, and it looks very much like the person who actually pulled out a gun in broad daylight and murdered this poor man, whose only crime was exercising his constitutional right of free speech, and that was taken away from him at gunpoint, which is what the totalitarian left wants to take away from the rest of us. You should have the right to vote your conscience and speak your mind in America, but the way that the modern Democratic Party works is, freedom is only for Democrats. Free speech is only for Democrats. The right to express yourself, whether in person or online, is reserved exclusively for Democrats. And this is the way totalitarian governments took over countries across the world, from Pol Pot's Cambodia with the Khmer Rouge, the North Vietnamese, the Chinese Communist government, Zimbabwe, Cuba, and most recently in Venezuela. Free speech only applies to the totalitarian left, and anyone else will receive this. Please find the murderer of Bernard Trammel. He represents every American who wants to have a free country and a free election, free of violence and murderous intimidation by the Joe Biden supporting totalitarian left. Thank you.